There's a physical memory that is practically hardwired into the American experience.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that feeling of pulling off the highway after, say, a 10-hour road trip, or maybe you're just wrapping up a grueling Tuesday at work and you steer your car right into a drive-through lane.
Yeah, just looking for that convenience.
Exactly. And for decades, you could pull a crumpled $20 bill out of your wallet, hand it through the window, and basically feed the entire vehicle.
Right. You didn't even have to think about it.
No, you didn't scrutinize the menu board at all. You didn't sit there and calculate the tax. I mean, the $20 bill was an all-access pass to convenience.
It really functioned as an unspoken social contract,
A social contract? How so?
Well, the agreement was simple. The consumer accepts highly processed, mass-produced meals. And in return, the industry completely eliminates the financial friction of eating out. It's cheap, it's fast, and it just works.
But the testimonials in our source stack for today's deep dive, they really suggest that contract has just been shredded.
Oh, it's completely gone.
There is one specific story in the data that perfectly captures the whiplash that everyday people are experiencing right now. So a customer goes to a Wendy's drive-thru on a random weekend morning with a friend.
Just a standard run.
Right. They order a standard breakfast for two combos. He pulls up to the window, and the total on the screen says $50.
I mean, $50 for a transaction that historically would have been a total afterthought.
Right. And the kicker is what actually comes in the bag. So he pays the $50, pulls out his $7 chicken biscuit, and he says it's the size of a golf ball.
Wow.
He literally described it as a slider, like 4 bites maximum.
That is just incredible.
He even mentioned the physical weight of the bag felt wrong, like it was too light to possibly contain $50 worth of food.
Yeah, that really hits home for a lot of people right now.
It does. We are talking about a foundational pillar of the American routine. Cheap, predictable fast food suddenly transforming into a luxury purchase. You literally have to check your bank account balance before asking for extra ketchup.
And understanding how that transformation happened, that is our mission today.
Exactly.
We are looking at a structural crisis that is actively reshaping household budgets. And this is particularly hitting hard for folks on fixed incomes, people managing their retirement funds.
Yeah, it's not just an inconvenience anymore.
No, it's a real financial strain. So to trace the mechanics of this shift, we are diving into official USDA economic data, some internal restaurant industry reports, and independent macroeconomic studies from the National Bureau of Economic Research.
Which is the NBER for short.
Right, the NBER. Plus, of course, those raw consumer testimonials you just mentioned.
Because going to the drive-thru used to function like turning on the tap water in your kitchen. You didn't meter it out. You didn't think about the utility bill every single time you washed a glass.
It was just a baseline utility.
Exactly. But now, pulling up to that speaker box feels like buying bottled water at an airport terminal. You are actively bracing for the financial impact.
That's a perfect analogy.
So we really need to figure out if this is just a temporary inflationary hangover from the past few years, or if the era of the dollar menu is permanently dead.
Well, to determine that, we really have to examine the physical product hitting the consumer's hands.
The actual food.
Yes. The original fast food supply chain was, honestly, a marvel of bulk engineering. Companies purchased commodities by the megaton, and they maintained incredibly suppressed labor costs.
Right. The inputs were so cheap.
Exactly. That alchemy is what allowed a family of 4 to eat for under $20. Ooh. But now that those input costs have changed, the industry is terrified of crossing psychological price thresholds.
Which brings us to the visual evidence of what consumers call shrinkflation and, what's the other word? Sneakflation.
Yes, sneakflation. It's a great term.
People aren't just complaining about prices anymore. They are actively documenting the physical reduction of their food.
They're taking out their cameras and measuring things.
Literally. Huh. One of the sources details a Subway customer who felt their standard 6-inch tuna sub was getting lighter, so they actually started keeping a retractable tape measure in their glove box.
That shows you the level of distrust.
Right. They ordered the sub, locked the tape measure at 6 inches, laid it next to the bread, and it measured exactly 5 inches.
And the mechanics behind that 5-inch sub are fascinating when you look at commercial baking.
Wait. They're intentionally baking it smaller, but making it look the same.
Yes. To maintain the visual illusion of a larger sandwich while using less dough, commercial bakeries can actually manipulate the proofing process.
How does that work?
Well, they increase the yeast or they adjust the baking temperature to create larger air pockets within the bread.
Oh, wow.
So the loaf looks relatively similar in volume when it's sitting inside the glass display case. But the structural density is just gone. You are quite literally paying for air.
That is wild. And the examples just keep piling up in our sources. Taco Bell fries from 2010 compared to today look like they've been hollowed out.
Oh, the side-by-side photos are stark.
A Burger King Whopper Jr. looks like a toddler's toy now. But the most devious one to me, anyway, was the ranch dipping sauce cup.
Oh, the false bottom.
Yes. Someone posted a photo looking straight down at a container of ranch, and it looked completely full, like flush right to the foil lid.
Right, it looks like a standard portion.
But when they peeled off the label and looked at the side of the clear plastic cup, the bottom half was entirely convex. It pushed all the way up into the center of the cup.
It's just a brilliant but very sneaky optical illusion.
The packaging engineers had literally designed a plastic false bottom to hide the fact that the volume of ranch was cut in half.
And you have to realize that false bottom engineering requires significant capital investment in new plastic molds.
Right, that's not cheap to design.
Exactly. Companies don't spend millions retooling their packaging lines unless they're totally desperate to offset massive internal cost pressures.
They're feeling the squeeze.
Very much so. According to the Food Institute data, 44% of lower-income consumers are dining out less than they were just 12 months prior.
Almost half. That's a huge drop-off.
It is. When you are a retiree managing a 401k withdrawal rate or a middle-class worker facing rising housing costs, a $50 fast food breakfast just isn't an option anymore.
It forces a complete behavioral change in your daily life.
Absolutely.
So we have the physical product shrinking, the packaging actively tricking the eye, and the receipt getting longer. Let's pull back the curtain on the invisible forces squeezing these restaurants.
Because obviously, the local burger place doesn't actually want to sell you a hollow cup of ranch.
Right. They are reacting to something bigger.
They are reacting to two massive economic drivers. And it starts with the agricultural supply chain. We are currently in the middle of a severe cyclical contraction in the U.S. cattle herd.
Okay, let's break that down. Data Central and USDA numbers show farm-level cattle prices jumped 16.2% in a single year, which translated to a nearly 20% spike in wholesale beef prices.
And that's a massive shock to the system.
So why are there suddenly fewer cows? It's not like Americans just stopped eating beef overnight.
No, not at all. It really comes down to weather patterns and generational attrition.
Weather patterns?
Yeah, years of severe drought across massive swaths of the American West and Midwest. That drought practically decimated the native prairie grasses that cattle normally graze on.
So there's no natural food for them.
Right. When the grass dies, ranchers have to supplement with commercial feed, things like alfalfa and corn. But grain prices also spiked during this time.
Oh, the ranchers are getting squeezed too.
Exactly. The mathematical reality of feeding those animals just became unsustainable. Ranchers were forced into what the industry calls herd liquidation.
Which means what exactly?
It means sending female cattle to slaughter rather than keeping them for breeding, simply because they couldn't afford to feed them through the winter.
Oh, wow. So they're literally shrinking the future population of the herd just to survive today.
Precisely. And you combine that with older ranchers retiring and younger generations basically refusing to take over these very low-margin agricultural businesses. The result is the smallest U.S. cattle inventory we've seen in decades.
But wait, the sources state that overall beef production costs are up 32% since 2023.
Yes, that's the USDA data.
But I'm not seeing a 32% increase on the actual burger menu at my local drive-thru. The Data Central report mentions burger menu prices only rose about 14% in that exact same time frame.
Right, and that 18% gap between the 32% wholesale cost and the 14% menu price hike, that is the margin squeeze.
So the restaurants are just eating that cost.
The restaurants are functioning as a buffer, yeah. Burger King US actually reported in their earnings that if beef prices had just remained stable, their store-level profitability would have been entirely flat.
But instead,
they took a hit. They absorb as much of that 32% wholesale spike as their balance sheets will possibly allow.
Because they know a sudden 32% menu price hike would just instantly destroy their customer base.
Exactly. It would cause total sticker shock.
Yeah.
But that buffer is finite. They can't absorb it forever.
Which brings us to the second massive force squeezing the industry, labor. The sources focus heavily on California's Assembly Bill 1228, which went into effect in April of 2024.
Right.
And without getting into any of the politics surrounding it, The factual reality is that it mandated a $20 per hour minimum wage for fast food workers at large chains.
And from a purely mechanical standpoint, you have to look at how a restaurant operates. Labor accounts for roughly 30% of a restaurant's total revenue,
Okay.
and the typical fast food location operates on a single-digit profit margin.
So they are already barely scraping by.
Right. So when the cost of 30% of your operation rises significantly overnight, the mathematics of the business fundamentally break. Unless, of course, you increase top-line revenue.
Meaning you raise prices. But I have to push back on the data here for a second. The MBER study says they tracked this specific wage hike, and they found it forced a 5% jump in menu prices, which then caused a 4% drop in customer traffic.
That's what the numbers showed.
But how do economists actually isolate the wage hike as the cause of that traffic drop? Because during that exact same period in California, delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash were surging, right?
Where, yeah.
And those apps take, 30% cuts from restaurant tickets? Couldn't that 4% traffic drop just be people refusing to pay exorbitant delivery fees rather than it being fallout from the wage hike?
That is an excellent point, and it's the exact methodological challenge the NBER researchers had to solve.
How do you untangle that?
To isolate the minimum wage effect, they use what economists call a synthetic control method.
Synthetic control.
Yeah, they don't just look at California in a vacuum. They look at border towns.
Ah, okay.
So they compare a fast food restaurant in a California town to a nearly identical fast food restaurant just 5 miles away across the border in Nevada or Oregon.
Where the $20 wage law didn't apply.
Exactly. But where delivery app usage, weather patterns, and general national inflation are identical.
Oh, that's clever. So the Nevada restaurant basically acts as the control group.
Precisely. By stripping away all those overlapping variables, like the delivery app fees and the national supply chain issues, they isolated the specific impact of AB 1228.
And what did that reveal?
The data revealed that the wage mandate alone resulted in an effective 5% menu price jump.
Wow. So the local franchisee is basically the shock absorber of the entire economy right now.
They really are.
Because you have corporate Wall Street dictating the mandatory marketing fees and the royalty percentages from the top, right? They're taking their cut off the gross revenue no matter what.
Right. The franchise fees are locked in.
And then you have the consumer at the bottom demanding a $5 meal and walking away if it's $6. So when cattle prices jump 30% and labor floors rise to $20, that franchise shock absorber just bottoms out.
They have nowhere to pull from except the menu price.
And that leads directly to the psychological tightrope walk we're seeing.
Yes. And Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, he's a food policy scholar we looked at in the sources. He points out that quick service restaurants have breached a critical psychological threshold.
People are just done.
Right. The restaurants know if they present you with a $15 combo meal, the shock might break your habit loop permanently.
You might just start packing a lunch and never return to that drive-thru again.
Exactly. So they shrink the physical product to keep the price at $10. They are basically gambling that you will accept the smaller portion more readily than you would a massively higher price.
But the Panera Bread story proves that gamble is starting to fail. Consumers are absolutely rejecting the illusion now.
The Panera situation was quite the wake-up call for the industry.
The sources detail a massive backlash against Panera. And it wasn't just, people complaining to the cashier. They organized.
They went digital.
Customers took to social media and subreddits. They were literally counting the number of chicken pieces in a salad and comparing photos of sandwiches from 2022 to 2024.
They documented everything.
Yeah.
Even the disappearance of the in-house bakers.
Right. They systematically dismantled the brand's value proposition online.
And the financial impact was immediate.
Sales plummeted so hard that Panera's CEO, Paul Carbone, was forced to execute a complete, humiliating 180-degree turn.
He had to do major damage control.
He went on the record admitting the brand had lost its focus. They had to publicly promise to rehire the actual bread makers, restore the quality of the ingredients, and officially mandate bigger portion sizes.
It really shows that the consumer does have a breaking point. And when they hit it, they can force the hand of a massive corporation.
It also highlights the extreme pressure on the people actually running these locations, right? The local operators.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The Pacific Research Institute featured Alex Johnson. He's an operator running 10 franchise locations in the San Francisco area.
And what was his experience?
He explicitly noted that his operations aren't backed by Wall Street billions. They are Main Street small businesses.
He's just a local guy trying to run his stores.
Right. And he was looking at the dual pressures of supply and labor, and he realized he had to raise prices by 10% just to survive the fiscal year.
Just to keep the lights on. And the downstream effect of that Main Street squeeze is what economists are calling a K-shaped economy in the restaurant sector.
The K-shaped recovery, yes.
Let's explain that for the listeners. So the top line of the K angles upward, which represents high-end sit-down dining.
Right. If you are affluent and insulated from inflation, you are still going to steakhouses.
Those businesses are thriving, but the bottom line of the K is plunging downward.
And that bottom line represents everyday Americans, the 50 to 65 plus demographic, fixed income retirees, and lower middle class families.
People who rely on a tight budget.
Exactly. They are being structurally priced out of convenience entirely. The Los Angeles Times conducted some incredible reporting in lower income areas like South LA, showing how this dynamic rapidly exacerbates the crisis of food deserts.
Because if the local drive-thru was the only affordable, accessible calorie source in a neighborhood without a major grocery store,
Right.
and suddenly that drive-thru costs $15 a head, the community is effectively stranded.
The baseline of affordability just vanishes. And we can actually track the exact moment this structural shift occurred using USDA Economic Research Service data.
Oh, really? When was it?
Well, historically, the inflation rate for groceries, what they call food at home, and the inflation rate for restaurants, food away from home, they moved in tandem.
They usually go up and down together.
Exactly. But in 2024, a massive divergence opened up. Restaurant prices rose by 4.1%, while grocery prices only rose by 1.2%.
Wait, so restaurant inflation is rising more than 3 times faster than grocery inflation.
That's what the data shows.
Why the sudden split? Don't grocery stores have to buy the exact same beef and hire the exact same labor?
They do, but massive grocery chains have entirely different supply chain leverage.
Oh, like wholesale purchasing power.
Much more than that. A national grocer can negotiate futures contracts for commodities years in advance. Plus, they have the square footage to employ loss leaders.
Loss leaders, that's when they sell something at a loss just to get you in the door, right?
Exactly. Like selling you a rotisserie chicken at a financial loss because they know you'll buy high-margin items like paper towels and wine while you were walking through the aisles.
Ah, okay.
A drive-through cannot sell a burger at a loss because they have no secondary high-margin items to offset it. There's no wine aisle at a burger joint.
Right. And the USDA projects this gap will only widen, with restaurant prices climbing steadily above historical averages while groceries stabilize.
The compounding math on this is staggering when you look over a few years.
It really is. McDonald's own corporate data revealed that the average price of their menu items increased by roughly 40% between 2019 and 2024.
A 40% jump in just 5 years.
And that brings us to a hidden statistical mechanism that distorts how we actually perceive that inflation.
Yes, the composition effect.
Right. Let's dig into that, because earlier we mentioned the NBER finding a 5% price jump in California fast food with a 2.1% spillover increase at sit-down restaurants.
Yes, that spillover effect is crucial.
Let me stop you there. Why did the sit-down restaurants raise their prices by 2.1% if the California law only targeted fast food workers?
It's basically the gravity of the local labor market.
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. If a local diner is paying its dishwashers and line cooks $16 an hour,
Okay.
and suddenly the burger franchise across the street is legally mandated to pay $20 an hour.
Oh, I see. The workers are just going to walk across the street.
Exactly. The diner has to raise wages immediately to prevent their entire kitchen staff from quitting. And to fund those raises, the diner has to raise its menu prices. The inflation just cascades through the entire local economy.
Okay, so back to the statistical distortion we mentioned, the composition effect. When I read that McDonald's average prices went up 40%, my brain naturally assumes a manager just walked out and changed the numbers on the sign.
That's how most people think about inflation.
Right. But the composition effect shows something much darker is happening to the average price.
It does. Imagine the restaurant landscape in a given town as a ladder.
Okay, a ladder.
At the very top, you have your premium fast casual options, maybe a gourmet burger spot charging $8.
Sounds reasonable for premium.
In the middle, you have a $5 option. And at the very bottom, operating on razor-thin margins and serving the most economically vulnerable population, you have a bare-bones place charging $3.
Okay, so if I average those out, 8, 5, and 3, The average price of a burger in this town is about $5.30.
Correct. Now, introduce a massive systemic shock, say a 30% jump in beef costs, or a sudden $20 minimum wage.
Okay, shock hits the ladder.
The premium $8 place might absorb the cost, or maybe they raise their price just a few cents. But the $3 place at the bottom of the ladder, they don't have the margin to survive.
They can't absorb a 30% cost increase.
Right. They don't raise their prices. They simply go bankrupt and close their doors entirely.
Wow. So the bottom rung of the ladder is just sawed off.
Exactly, the mechanism. With the $3 place gone, only the $5 and $8 places remain in town.
So even without a single restaurant actually changing their menu prices, the average price of a burger in that town mechanically jumps to $6.50.
Yes. The NBER modeled this exact scenario and found that if just the bottom 3.2% of the cheapest restaurants exit the market, the average statistical price of food goes up 2.5% automatically.
That completely reframes the entire crisis. The food isn't just getting more expensive. The foundational tier of affordability is literally being wiped off the map.
It's just vanishing.
Which leads right into the most unsettling revelation in the source material, honestly. We've been talking about local managers trying to balance their books, but the reality of pricing in 2026 is entirely algorithmic.
Oh, the era of the static menu board is officially over.
The sources detail how AI and complex algorithms are actively dictating both portion sizes and menu prices now.
It's not a guy with a clipboard anymore.
No. These corporations funnel millions of data points into a central processing system.
They know everything about your purchasing habits.
Right. The algorithm knows exactly when you open your loyalty app. It tracks your geographic location, your IP address, your past purchase history, and it calculates the exact threshold of your human tolerance.
The data pipeline is incredibly sophisticated. I mean, every time a consumer scans a loyalty app or initiates an online order, the system logs the exact price point at which cart abandonment occurs.
Cart abandonment meaning when you just close the app because it's too expensive.
Exactly. If the algorithm determines that a specific demographic in a specific zip code will tolerate a 5% reduction in the volume of French fries alongside a 3% price increase without abandoning the transaction, that new ratio is beamed out to thousands of digital menu boards instantly.
That is terrifying.
It completely removes human empathy from the pricing structure entirely.
Yeah.
It is just cold optimization math.
But the algorithm might have pushed too far because it actually triggered a massive unintended consequence in the market. The restaurant hierarchy has been completely inverted. We are seeing what the sources call the value war reversal.
Yes. This is a fascinating market shift. For the last 50 years, the hierarchy was absolute.
Fast food was always the cheapest.
Right. Fast casual places like Chipotle or Panera was the middle tier. And sit-down, full-service dining was the premium tier.
But because algorithmic pricing pushed quick service restaurant prices so incredibly high, the bottom tier converged with the top tier.
The lines just blurred completely.
You end up paying sit-down prices for a meal you have to eat out of a paper sack while balancing a drink between your knees in the driver's seat.
And sit-down chains identify that vulnerability and aggressively attack the fast food market share.
Chili's is the prime case study here from the data.
Oh, they executed this perfectly.
They recognized that a consumer paying $15 for a drive-through combo was feeling exploited. So Chili's launched the 3 for Me deal at $10.99.
Just unbelievable value.
A burger, fries, a bottomless drink, and bottomless chips and salsa. And it's all served to you at a table in a climate-controlled room.
It's an aggressive loss leader strategy, just like the grocery stores use.
How did it actually affect their bottom line, though? Because that sounds like they'd lose money.
It was devastatingly effective. While fast food customer traffic was shrinking nationwide, Chili's reported a staggering 21.4% same-store sales growth.
21% growth.
Yeah. You see, sit-down restaurants generally own their real estate, and they operate on different labor deployment models. That allows them to absorb the food cost hit in exchange for massive volume.
So they completely stole the value crown from the drive-thru industry by just offering transparent, tangible value.
They gave the consumer exactly what they were looking for.
So where does the consumer go from here? I mean, the drive-thru is algorithmically squeezing them. Sit-down dining requires a time commitment a lot of busy families just don't have. And the bottom tier of cheap food is going out of business.
It's a really tough spot for everyday folks.
Let's look at the practical takeaways for the listener navigating this environment. The first major red flag in the data is what we're calling the protein illusion.
Yes, this is perhaps the most brilliant and deceptive marketing pivot we've seen in the industry.
As physical portion sizes visibly shrink, fast food chains obviously needed a narrative distraction.
They had to change the conversation.
Right. So they capitalized on the national obsession with macronutrients and fitness to launch these high-protein marketing blitzes.
The list of products and the sources is almost comical.
It really is. Coffee Bean is pushing protein lattes. Tropical Smoothie has protein-infused fruit drinks. Dunkin' is marketing protein refreshers.
Starbucks rolled out protein cold foam.
You can even buy protein Kool-Aid and protein cheese puffs at the convenience store now. It's everywhere.
The mechanism here is pure nutritional sleight of hand.
How so?
Well, whey protein is a relatively cheap bulk commodity. So by injecting a scoop of whey into a smaller product, they change the consumer's psychological perception of the item.
Oh, I see.
You no longer feel like you are buying a shrinking sugary drink.
Ooh.
You feel like you are investing in a premium, health-conscious lifestyle product.
So it provides the psychological justification for the higher price tag.
Exactly. It completely masks the fact that the actual physical volume of food you are receiving has decreased.
The most egregious example of this psychological trick comes from Chipotle. Customers started noticing their baseline portions of chicken and steak were getting noticeably smaller.
Right. There was an absolute uproar online about this.
People were literally filming the workers making the bowls to prove the soups were shrinking.
And did Chipotle apologize and restore the original scoop size?
No. They maintained the new, smaller baseline portion, but they added an option on the app to pay a premium surcharge for double protein.
Unbelievable.
You essentially have to pay a massive upcharge just to restore the bowl to the size it used to be standard like 3 years ago.
They shifted the narrative from "we are giving you less" to "we are offering you a premium upgrade for your protein goals."
It's so manipulative.
It is, but practical consumers, particularly that 50 to 65 plus demographic who are meticulously managing household budgets, they are highly adaptable.
They aren't just sitting there taking it.
No, they are bypassing both the drive-through and the sit-down restaurant and pivoting aggressively to the grocery store.
But not for raw ingredients to cook from scratch, right? Because they still want that convenience. They are going for the prepared foods.
Exactly. The hot deli counter, the prepackaged heat-and-eat meals, and, of course, the ultimate inflation-proof staple, the Costco or supermarket rotisserie chicken.
Oh, the legendary rotisserie chicken.
The economics of that chicken rely heavily on that loss leader model we discussed earlier. Grocers are perfectly willing to lose money on the bird just to guarantee foot traffic.
And it works.
It works beautifully. These prepared grocery sections have absorbed the vast majority of the displaced demand from the fast food sector. They deliver the exact same frictionless convenience as a drive-through window, but the pricing structure respects the reality of a modern household budget.
Now, what about the franchisees? If you are a small business owner listening to this and you run a local diner or a franchise, you don't have a team of Silicon Valley engineers writing pricing algorithms for you.
No, you're on your own.
You are just watching your beef invoices skyrocket while your labor costs hit $20 an hour. What do you do?
Well, the Industry Procurement Service Supplier Scan provided some very specific operational mechanics for survival in the data.
What's their advice?
Number 1. Terminate single vendor reliance. If you buy all your core ingredients from one distributor, you have zero pricing power.
Because they can just dictate whatever price they want.
Exactly. You need a stable of 3 to 4 overlapping suppliers to force competitive bidding.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Number 2. Utilize futures contracts for non-perishable goods. Lock in your cooking oil, packaging, and dry goods on 3 to 6 month fixed price contracts. That insulates your balance sheet from sudden market volatility.
Right, so you know exactly what your costs will be for the next quarter.
But the most profound advice they gave actually had nothing to do with the supply chain.
Oh, what was it?
It was about kitchen psychology. They said, before you shrink the portion size and trigger a customer boycott like Panera did, look at your prep waste.
Oh, wow. Don't cut the customer's food, cut the garbage.
Precisely. It's the concept of yield management. Are your line cooks maximizing the usable product from every single onion, every head of lettuce, every cut of meat?
You have to audit the kitchen.
Exactly. If audits show that customers are consistently leaving 15% of a specific pasta dish on their plate, well, then you can safely reduce that portion size without perceived loss of value.
Because they weren't eating it anyway.
Right. But if your kitchen staff is throwing away 10% of usable inventory before it even hits the pan due to sloppy prep work, fixing that internal inefficiency is how you save your profit margins.
And you do it without alienating the person actually paying the bill.
Exactly. Protect the consumer's plate at all costs.
We have covered massive ground here today. When you pull it all together, the $50 breakfast for two, the 5-inch sub, the hollowed-out ranch cup, none of these are anomalies.
They're really not.
They aren't mistakes made by a rogue employee at the window. They are the exact mathematical result of severe agricultural droughts shrinking the cattle herd, structural shifts in minimum wage laws, the ruthless efficiency of algorithmic pricing, and the silent statistical death of the absolute cheapest tier of American restaurants.
It really represents a permanent paradigm shift in how we feed ourselves.
It's not going back to how it was.
No. The historical gap between the cost of eating at home and the cost of outsourced convenience has widened to a degree we just haven't seen in modern economic history.
Yeah.
The entire drive-through industry was conceptualized and built to be the default, thoughtless choice for the busy American worker. It has officially lost that status.
It's true. It has transitioned into a luxury calculation that demands intention and scrutiny from everyday folks. Which brings us right back to the driver's seat. Sitting in your car, the engine idling, staring up at a glowing digital menu board that is actively using artificial intelligence to calculate the maximum amount of money you are willing to part with.
It's a very different world now.
You are holding that $20 bill that used to buy the world. Next time you find yourself in that drive-through lane, ask yourself a question. Are you actually paying for the physical food in the bag? Or are you just paying an exorbitant premium for the fading memory of convenience? Where do you draw the line?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the data. Keep demanding transparency and keep asking the hard questions about where your money goes.